Welcome back to Whoscussion. We're on part B, and we are going over the Eighth Doctor story, The Natural History of Fear. Harriet Skelly, take it away.
And again, not to be confused with The
The
Web of
Web of
Fear,
Fear.
which is the next second Doctor story that we'll be doing.
It'll be the first time I've watched it since it was recovered, because I refused to buy it on DVD, because they still haven't animated the missing episode.
Yes. BBC. Anyway, we're not talking about the BBC now. We're talking about Big Finish.
Yeah, indeed.
So, which tends to be a lot better when it comes to this sort of stuff. Anyway, we are in a particularly interesting episode, which I also like to call "We Are Not the Macro."
Yes.
Due to its interesting nature to that interesting comparisons to that macro story that we recently went over with the Orwellian set of society, to the point of literally controlling what you were allowed to think. Yeah. It's a very interesting concept, where it's very much what the idea. A lot of people like to paint the picture of how Nazi Germany would have ended up if it had been allowed to continue.
Yeah, thought crimes.
Where people would rat you out to the Führer and that sort of stuff. If you asked questions, that sort of stuff. The story is very elegant, and I like a lot. I like in a lot of it. There's a lot of audio jokes that, because of the fact that it's not visual, become jokes.
Yeah.
Where the Doctor's pulling out some stuff out of his pockets, and just like there's just random noises going on, and he's making comments based on what they are, and you absolutely cannot tell what they are. It's just the way that Big Finish like to play it when it comes to their audio stuff, which is I like, but it can be really good sometimes.
It's one of those stories that could like only work as a non-visual as well.
Yeah, with the there's definitely a one particular element of it which we won't spoil for you that really can't be played out in a visual sense.
Yeah.
Although this has been done, it has been illustrated, but it's illustrated in a way, from what I can tell, illustrated in a way that does not give this away, which is interesting. I don't know how exactly they explain that. I'm guessing they made some changes to the story to make that be explained. But at the very least, it's really, really good. So the start of the story starts off not with the Doctor and Charlie showing up in a place or going through the movement with Chris and stuff. There's no zone movement or that sort of stuff. It's just straight into the story. We get put into a scene with Charlie. At least it sounds like Charlie. It's voiced by the same person. And I'm not sure I don't think it was Chris. I couldn't really place the voice who she was with, but it seemed like they were in a relationship, married even. No,
it's not Kira's, because Kira's plays the Conscience.
Yeah, there you go. He's played the Conscience, so it's another voice. But at the very least, it's real. It's a real interesting interaction that goes on with Charlie, what we assume to be Charlie at the time, interacting with this other guy that apparently she's married to, and that she's been watching like random television shows, and she seems to be like completely enveloped into this society. And then he asks just a simple question, and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
And he even just jumps off a building. it really escalates really quickly, and I want you to put that picture in this in this episode right there of that escalated quickly, like because it really does. It goes from 1 to 10 really really quickly. But it I don't think I've ever experienced any other Orwellian form other than Orwell's stories themselves
Mm.
that portray this kind of society and just the aspects of it as well, to the point of um, being basically having their brain wiped and have new memories implanted, and having that continue on through that body,
Mm.
having the idea of evolution being more natural sense, like actually being something sealed within you rather than being just an idea in your head, and that's that sort of idea flowing throughout the story. It's really 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 good, and you really 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 need to listen to it.
Yeah,
That's what I've got to say about it.
I just like the idea that that the asking a question is illegal.
Yep.
Wanting to be free as a thought is illegal.
Yep.
Music is illegal, which is
Yep.
something that is interesting because the Doctor talked about that in Scherzo.
Yeah.
Music becomes outlawed, so they're in an environment where that's the case. Um, we've also we've got the characters constantly are getting their brains rewritten, essentially, to the
So
point that it's not even them anymore, but it is them, and they're able to sort of remember. And one of them thinks that somebody else is the Doctor,
yeah.
and the one that's voiced by Paul McGann thinks that Charlie's voice is the Doctor.
Yeah.
It's it's definitely something that I think a lot of people will probably want to go back and listen to twice,
Definitely.
because
There's a lot of interesting
it's a
things.
lot to take in.
Yeah. There's a really a lot to it. Where it it really sells exactly how it sounds. The whole idea of it sells really well for me. I just found myself just being completely encapsulated by the whole idea of the story. Um, to
I'm
to the
so glad
point,
you say that because it's my favorite Who mythos. It's my favorite part of Who lore. It's just so I don't know, different. I mean, I know that's such a vague term, but it is so different.
it
Um,
really is.
and I think the only way the comic, the way they represent it, where the Doctor and Charlie and Kira's are in basically a white void.
Mm.
I think it's probably the only way you could do it.
Yeah, well, that's what it seems like it is. In the uh, for the illustrated version, is some interesting things.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, but the just yeah, you'll have to. Well, well, yeah.
it's we won't give anything away here, and that kind of makes talking about it a little difficult because it's one of those stories you definitely have to witness for yourself.
Mm,
It's it's
it's
a
really hard to describe.
cluster F word.
Yeah, it is. It is a cluster of things. Oh,
It's so
there's
much is going on.
yeah, there's a lot of things going on. I suppose we can give away some of the story elements, just not the ending and all that
Yeah,
stuff. Um, there's there's this hierarchy of people, the censors and the editors and the consciences and subconsciouses,
yeah,
that sort of
and
stuff.
the conscience and the subconscious, their job is literally to tell you how to think.
Yeah, where they are literally the mind police, where if you are thinking impure thoughts or asking questions, then people will be like, "Conscience, come help! The people are thinking," and they will run over and basically interrogate the people, wipe their minds, scan their minds, find out the bad thoughts, and get rid of them, and that sort of stuff. Very similar in the way the censor works as well, and despite all that, there is also the editor,
The editor.
which works a little differently, where basically they have all the same accesses and stuff that the censors and the consciences do, but they seem to be permitted with different things where they're allowed to listen to music and
Yeah.
think freely and ask questions. And
But
it seems
their job is to use that to see if other people are breaking the law, right?
yeah, that they are the lawbreakers to they're basically the epitome of being an undercover agent, really, where they are allowed to do those things just to get other people to admit those things,
Yeah.
which is it's an interesting scope, especially considering it, it really it really points to that whole idea of if if you're trying to control people into thought and stuff, then you yourself would have to be part of that. But if you're not, then you would you would be you know you would be mixing the system. You would add impunities to it if you were outside of that system, but also working within it. So you couldn't. The, what it seems to point to is that with the editor being allowed these things, it seems to make it worse for them to try and fix it, because a lot of the problems that the society seems to be having is that the editor just goes around doing whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
So it's it's really interesting. It's a really interesting point to all of that idea, the imperial sort of just Orwellian controlling. Um, I'm not really sure of the full word for it. Is it authoritarian? There's a word for
Totalitarian?
totalitarian sort of society where yeah they're just controlled beyond anything to the point of birthing licenses and stuff like that. Where
Oh yeah, birthing licenses. That was so interesting. We
yeah
we tried to apply, but we got turned down.
yeah being controlled to the point of not being allowed children is an interesting concept. I mean, you know, other countries have,
Definitely,
have
definitely
have
done this
have
before.
definitely tried to put certain restrictions on that sort of thing. Not nearly to the point of stopping you from having any children at all, but you know, there
Restricting
are
on what you
things.
can, on what children you can have.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
there's interesting ideas that have been brought forward by this.
what I find interesting is the fact that there's this resistance they keep talking about,
Yeah,
and you never meet them.
no, that there's never you never actually see a resistance. That the resistance ends up being uh, I really don't want to give it away, but I guess I have to. The resistance ends up being an idea, like sort of V for Vendetta style,
Yeah,
but on a different level where
it,
it's not
it
one
reminds me
person.
of Cannon Fodder, if you've ever seen that film. In Cannon Fodder, everybody accepts that there's an enemy they must fight, and every single day they fire cannons, and there's fire
Yeah,
cannons, and they fire cannons, and they fire cannons, but you never see the enemy, and you never see them fire back.
yeah. It's that sort of level where but to the point where the people fighting the enemy are the enemy, become the enemy
Yeah,
because of that fight. It's a really interesting thing that basically when it really comes down to it is if nothing is not if nothing is allowed to what's the word I'm looking for, if there's nothing that cannot be scrutinized, then everything, even yourself, will become scrutinized, and you're not necessarily going to find good things there. So
yeah.
it, it's a real interesting concept, and you definitely need to read it, need to listen to it, and listen to it twice just to fully understand the scope of what happens there. Um, the fact that another fact that I suppose I can't really speak of that about that without giving anything away.
Yeah.
So just yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff to this, and listen to it.
I humbly agree. Listen to it. Yeah, unfortunately, it's you can't really talk about it without spoiling it. It's just unfortunately one of those stories. But essentially, there are in this zone, because everything's taking place on this one planet. Was it Intimus, Terminus, Oricinus, whatever the name of the planet is?
Yeah.
Um, that they're all that everything's happening on. They're all going through the zones. And this particular zone is just everything to do with life is to do with how one thinks, and thinking is almost life itself in this place. And your thoughts are constantly changed and updated to a fashion that the government sees fit. And people who accidentally ask a question, they think to themselves, "Oh, okay. Well, I accidentally asked a question today, so I actually freely want to go get my mind wiped of doing it."
Yeah.
It's like that's incredible. Like the people are so brainwashed that they just accept it, and it's like la di da.
Yeah. Well, there's that propaganda slogan that they have, which is happiness through acceptance,
Acceptance.
and productivity through happiness. That sort of stuff. Or the one that I really like, which is very dark side esque, which is questions lead to answers, answer leads to knowledge, leads to was it dissatisfaction, and dissatisfaction leads to unhappiness. Like that's some messed things right there. Like, yeah, sure, but so knowledge can also lead to extreme satisfaction. So come on, guys.
Yeah, it's so much stuff happens in the story, and I just think people just really need to go and go ahead and listen to the story.
Yeah, we
It's
might as well have just broadcast it instead of this episode
yeah,
of
it's
Whoscussion.
it's
But
it's
we
actually,
can't do that.
we can't
So
do that because the law. So yeah, I suppose with all of that said, I suppose that brings this episode of Whoscussion to a close
yeah, we will have to see you next week with the web affair
with
instead.
the River Fair. And what's our next story? Blah, 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 blah. Doctor Who.
What is our next? Doctor.
Eighth Doctor.
It is the Twilight Kingdom.
Twilight
Yes.
Kingdom. I can't even remember what happened in this. So I'm looking forward to it because I literally can't remember what happens in this story. Alrighty, well, this has been Whoscussion. Thank you all for your time, and thank you again to the wonderful Harry and Skelly.
Thank you.